If you love the idea of making your home look like a historical romance set in 18th century Scotland, then you might want to tap into the Outlander aesthetic for inspiration. Whether or not you're a fan of the Outlander TV show and books, there is so much to visually feast on here. And since many of you are fans of Castlecore, hobbitcore, fairycore, and other fantasy-based aesthetics, I know for a fact that the Outlander aesthetic is right up your alley. In fact, I got this comment on my Castlecore video literally while I was designing the thumbnail for this video. And with the final season premiering next month, as an Outlander lover myself, I thought it was a perfect time to dive into this style and talk about how it can inspire our decor. And ultimately create a sanctuary filled with moody candlelight, cozy warmth, and dark, rustic castle magic. So today I'm gonna give you a bunch of Outlander-inspired decor ideas and show you how some of them can come together in a bedroom design I created. And then you too can feel like you time traveled to 18th century Scotland through some magical stones and found yourself surrounded by rolling green hills, candlelit castle walls, tartan-clad rebels, and a slew of witchcraft accusations just for being an intelligent woman in the 1700s, all within the walls of your apartment. And if you're new here, my name is Steffi and this is Hilo, and on this channel I talk about small apartment styling, cozy living, some of the more niche, alternative, and fantasy styles, and the joys of living alone. So if you're into that, consider subscribing and giving this video a like. So before we get into the specific decor pieces I found, let's define what the Outlander aesthetic is. For one thing, it depends on what era of the show you're talking about. For this video, I'm gonna focus on where it all began, which is 18th century Scottish Highlands. But this show goes all over the place, geographically and therefore aesthetically. The Paris season in particular deserves its own video because it's some of the most visually decadent television I've ever seen. But for this video, let's focus on the visual heart of the show, AKA one of the coziest aesthetics in existence. Because at the end of the day, these Highlanders were a very practical people. Most of the visuals you see in this show come down to one core purpose: keeping warm. Fabrics like wool, leather, fur, or for us, faux fur, and hanging tapestries all serve the purpose of surviving the cold Highland winters. Then, as a lovely side effect, they make the rooms look pretty. I'm sure the manly kilt-clad brutes of this show would love to hear that. This style is very much about practicality, but it just so happens to end up looking so cute and cozy. And in addition to the coziness, it's also a very moody, rustic style. It's very earthy and nature-informed, raw woods, stone castle and cottage walls, rooms lit only by candlelight, and echoes of Celtic folklore. But aside from what your eyes see, which is basically a dark, rustic castlecore through a distinctly Scottish lens, let's talk about what your heart sees in this style. What is the spirit of the Outlander aesthetic? At its heart, it's a story of romance and rebellion. It's a love story and a political thriller. The main character, Claire, accidentally time travels to 1743, and before she knows it, she finds herself falling in love with a sexy Scot who is deeply embroiled in the Jacobite rebellion. And everything beautiful you see in this show is under threat. Tartan kilts, banned by the British government. The Gaelic language, banned by the British government. Highland culture in general, under attack. At its core, this aesthetic is really just all about staying warm while fighting an oppressive government. Sound familiar? To quote another Ronald D. Moore show I am a massive fan of, all of this has happened before, and it will all happen again. History repeats over and over. I have a Battlestar Galactica tattoo. Did you really think I was going to be able to talk about a Ronald D. Moore show without slipping in a little BSG? You expect too much of me. But this is a major theme in Outlander too. All of this has happened before, and it will all happen again. Season 1, it was the Jacobite Rebellion, and in the final seasons, it's the Revolutionary War. We humans just can't help ourselves. At the end of the day, violent, greedy men ruin everything. And don't even get me started on the misogynistic witchcraft allegations that Claire and Galus have to deal with in Season 1. Okay. Before my already constantly simmering blood gets to a full boil, let's talk about the pretty things of this style. Just keep in mind, if you want to capture any aesthetic in your decor, understanding the history of it and the spirit of it is only gonna help you make it more beautiful. This is how we create a style with soul, not just a superficial shell of it. Okay. On to pretty things. There's an account on Instagram I found that perfectly captures the Outlander aesthetic. Kev Rose Home. In fact, she intentionally captures it. Creating an Outlander-inspired space is her goal, and she has done so much to make it look like her home went through the same time travel stones Claire did, right down to finding clever DIY ways to hide modern technology like her fridge and TV. This woman is just straight up DIYing her way to full-blown Outlander excellence. I can't imagine being able to do the things she does. The talent is just off the charts. And this is what I think is her ultimate pièce de résistance. This canopy bed. You guys, she made this. What the fuck? It's incredible. It looks like something straight out of the 1700s. Straight out of Outlander. And then there's her kitchen. Same deal. Time travel chic. Maybe not the most realistic for us renters, but when talking about a style like this, you have to expect a certain level of unrealism and relish in it.
People always say, like, that's not realistic. Not for you, you unwhimsical bitch.
This is true, dedicated Outlander styling, right down to responding to the blatant misogyny in her comments, just like Claire would, by showing just how much of a capable and powerful woman she is. And that's even more beautiful than her actual decor. So if you want to see how someone does the Outlander aesthetic full force in our modern time, look no further than Kev Rose Home. I'll link to her account in the description. I know you guys will love her if you weren't already following her. I've never found an inspo Instagram account that so closely follows the theme I'm talking about in a video, so this was quite a find. So now that we've touched on the visual inspiration and spirit of the Outlander aesthetic, let's get into the specific decor pieces I found for this style, starting with bed stuff. And for one thing, you'll see that I really zeroed in on 4-post canopy beds along with vintage inspired bedding. I was specifically inspired by Claire and Jamie's bedroom at Lallybroch with its grand canopy bed and velvet bedding. Such a stunning room. The visual romance of this room is undeniable. And aside from finding 4-post canopy beds and velvet bedding that mimics this specific room, I also found bedding that taps into other visual motifs you see in the show. The tartan bedding is an obvious nod to kilts, and the design on this duvet cover reminded me of the kind of art you see on the hanging tapestries on the walls of many spaces in the Outlander world. And then if a full-blown dramatic dramatic four-post canopy bed is a little too much for you, I found this vintage wood headboard that's definitely dramatic in its own right, but a little more low-key and manageable. For this one, I was inspired by the fireplace in this room with its ornate carved wood, and I wanted to find a headboard that kind of echoes that vibe. Overall, when shopping for beds and bedding for this style, think grand romance, cozy, sumptuous fabrics, beautifully crafted wood, and antique details that will make the room look like it's from another time. Now let's get into some wall decor that would be perfect for an Outlander home. Now, clearly, wall tapestries play a huge role in this style. They're everywhere in the homes of Outlander. So I found a few that would help you convey a similar vibe. You don't have to go as hard as the Outlander characters do. You'll see when they hang tapestries, they really go for it and cover like every inch of the walls. And again, this was for warmth as well as decor. But since we have modern heating, we can just use them as decor. And they can actually be a really nice focal point stand-in for a headboard if you don't want to spend the money on one. You'll see an example of this in my bedroom design later. And then if you wanted to take it even further, you could do something like this wallpaper, which to me kind of captures the types of floral patterns you see on the wall tapestries if you were to zoom in, and would really create such a sense of the antique style romantic drama we're going for. Then we have some hanging pieces, a couple pieces of wall art, a dried flower rack, and an antique mirror I found that echoes this mirror in Claire and Jamie's bedroom. See how it mimics a similar kind of curvature and antique vibe? I love seeking out items that are directly inspired by something I see in a period drama like this. It's such a fun shopping challenge, and this one comes pretty close, don't you think? Then this vintage botanical thistle illustration and oil painting print of a Scottish castle would add to the old world charm we're going for, while directly nodding to Scotland. The thistle is Scotland's national flower, which is something I learned while researching and shopping for this video, and a vintage style botanical print like this is a way to convey that while also leaning into the witchy apothecary look that I associate with Claire's character. You see, Claire is a doctor in the modern day, but when she travels back in time, she's considered at best a healer and at worst a witch by the characters around her. And when you're seeing her medical knowledge at play in this 18th century context, it does look pretty witchy, which I love. Foraging plants, making elixirs, grabbing tonics from an apothecary cabinet surrounded by hanging dried herbs and flowers. This is all very Claire chic. So from hanging tapestries to oil painting prints to dried hanging flowers, wall decor for the Outlander aesthetic ranges from antique coziness to nature-inspired witchiness. It's a nice balance of practicality and fantasy. Now let's get into the decorative accents I found. And first off, back to the old apothecary vibes I was talking about, I found this apothecary cabinet in which you can store all your herbs and potions and whatnot. However you use it, it is definitely that old apothecary look, and made me think of this beautiful cabinet situation from the show. So if you're like me and you are definitely never going to DIY your own version of this like Kevro's home did, something on a smaller scale like this is a good option. And then placing a thistle bouquet like this next to it would not only continue the witchy forager vibes, but it would also, once again, serve as a nod to Scotland's national flower. Same with this thistle sculpture, hand forged by a Scottish blacksmith. Anytime you can feature pieces actually made by a Scot will of course only add to the authenticity of this style. And just conceptually, I like the idea of the play between the softness of a thistle and the toughness of metal. It kind of embodies the Highland men on this show, tough on the outside, but they can all be a bunch of silly softies too. Then I found a couple things that were directly inspired by the decor on this fireplace mantle. A couple vintage brass candlestick holders and some Royal Warwick Locks of Scotland tea saucers. I'm pretty proud of these finds. I feel like they really tap into this mantle styling from the show, while also once again staying authentically Scottish. And to continue with another item made in Scotland, I found this Celtic harp table runner that you can also wear as a scarf, which is fun. I bet it could also potentially work as a finishing throw on your bed to add some texture and a Celtic touch. Then add a plaid pillow like this and the bed look is complete. And remember the importance of candlelight to this look. The more candles, the better, especially when displayed on iron candelabras like this. We're going for a dimly lit castle glow situation in here. Then in combination with an iron chandelier like this, you'd basically be living in a Scottish castle at that point. And finally, for decorative accents, these ones are for the Outlander fans. I had to include a few fandom pieces that would also look aesthetically pleasing as decor, which if you watch my videos, you know I'm a big proponent of finding stylish ways to interject my fandoms into my styling. So if you're coming at this as an Outlander fan, these are just some cute ways to do it. So those were the Outlander inspired decor pieces I found. Now let me show you how some of them could come together in a bedroom design I created. As you can see, it's all about the cozy warmth and dark, moody romance we see in the show. The 4-post bed combined with the hanging tapestry kind of hints at the canopy bed look without fully having to commit to it. And like I mentioned earlier, the tapestry provides a focal point in place of a headboard. And the styling altogether looks like a collection of antiques and gives off an air of a time-traveled space. And then if you're not afraid of a lot of pattern, here's a version with the wallpaper I found. This kind of gives the effect of the wall-to-wall tapestries of the show without having to, buy a ton of tapestries and cover every inch of your walls with them. And I realize that pattern layering like this is not exactly easy to pull off, but if you do it right, it can look gorgeous. Overall, it's a space that embraces the old while living in the world of the new and does it by candlelight. So that was the Outlander aesthetic. Let me know in the comments below, are you a fan of Outlander like I am? And are you super excited yet also kind of dreading the final season coming back next month? And if you're not an active watcher or reader of Outlander, just let me know what you think of this look. And if you want some more inspiration along the lines of this Outlander aesthetic, I recommend you watch this video next. Actually, it's a playlist. I'm gonna link a playlist here. It's my fantasy aesthetics playlist. If you liked this video, then you should give this a binge because I dive into everything from fairycore to goblincore, castlecore, hobbitcore, all of those majestic styles. So give this a watch next.